here. Matt, there is no reason you cannot PM people in the group. Oh, so hang on, privately?
Yeah, right now that's not working.
Yeah,
That's weird. It was last week too.
It says publicly. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you've been punished.
We all have.
Were you sending dirty pictures or something to members of the group and we had to block you?
Yeah, they all banned me.
That could be it. Patrick, you obviously have something to say, Dearson.
I'm in a very loud warehouse right now. You are looking at the official pivot behind me.
Oh, this is it, the hospital.
This is it, yeah. This is the modular medical hospitals that we've been working on with Andrew Gumper and his team. And they are actually being made. We've got multiples on the assembly line down here. And these will hopefully be saving lives within the next month. It'll be pretty interesting.
Very, very cool. That's very cool. Is there anything to show us? Or anything you're allowed to show us? Gumper, is this like...
We can show you all of it.
I mean, you can see it's, they're being built out. It's still a work in progress.
We're in full construction mode here, but right now we're actually looking at, this is a laboratory trailer. So the shutter will go right there. And then on the other side, you've got another open concept room that gets reconfigured for various needs, whether it's a storage closet, janitorial closet, all the various things that need to keep up with Army Corps engineer standards. And then over on the other side here, we have a flooring going down, and this will be patient trailers. So you'll have a full containment unit in here for patients, and the center of it being a full hallway. So as these things stack together, they end up forming a main center hallway through the entire site. You put about anywhere between 50 to 100 of these together, and that'll give you a full 52-bed medical facility, or double that, with the ability to have nursing stations and just about everything else you could think of.
That is crazy.
We've got fire suppression built in, all plumbing, heating, HVAC, HEPA filtering, options for UVC lighting, etc.
Does it all connect together like a quick connect, or does it have to?
Yeah, they all clip together. It's all cam locks and quick connects on water and sewage and everything.
That's amazing. Are you guys just repurposing storage containers, or are you building them from scratch?
We build them
from scratch.
Oh, wow.
We're in the process of getting all the ISO certifications, Army Corps engineer certifications, National Fire Suppression Safety stuff, every possible certification you can think of to be compliant with Army Corps engineers. And then back here, we've got an outdoor supply closet that enables us to do all the maintenance and everything for electrical, plumbing, and HVAC, as well as a few other things such as oxygen distribution from the outside. So none of the patients are ever disturbed. Everything's external.
Hey, Patrick, just an FYI, it sounds better when you just leave your mic hanging than when you stick it in front of your mouth. Yeah. So, no, that's very cool.
Yeah, they can be deployed from trailers, AC-130s, Globemasters, seaborne shipping, as well as rail.
What's your turnaround time on these units?
We're looking at being. Go ahead, Andrew.
Once we're in full production, we'll be having two a day come off the line. It's about a 20-day process to run through the line from start to finish.
Right now, this whole line behind me is one assembly line. So it all starts down in their manufacturing and fab facility, and then they push down the line. They're on a full rail system where they come down to here for final finishing. And then we have the ability to lay out a second assembly line, a third, and then continue down as needed should demand increase to that point. Fingers crossed.
That is wild.
Luckily, the prep areas aren't too busy right now.
Yeah. So the rest of you fuckers have been sitting around drinking wine in your backyards. We've been a little busy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. So I actually did my first flight. Boom.
Where'd you go?
To a race, of course, but I.
Oh, the one in Ohio?
Yeah, Columbus, Ohio. So I flew West Palm Beach to Baltimore to Columbus, and then back, and on Southwest. And I don't know, if many of you have flown, but it was actually a pretty pleasant experience. It was, you know, they don't sell the middle seats on Southwest. I've found out that right now Southwest and United are following that rule until the end of September, but American and Delta, I believe, are both selling middle seats. They're selling full planes.
Actually, it's the other way around. I think it's United and American are the
No.
ones that are not doing that.
No, United just announced they're adding 25,000 more flights and filling up the entire plane. It just came down like an hour and a half ago.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because I actually
Yeah, it was
booked
a big
flights
announcement.
this morning.
Delta's not selling the middle seats, okay?
I booked flights this morning, and United said they weren't.
Yeah, well,
'Cause I
now
have to go to another race in 2 weeks.
it was this afternoon that they announced it.
Oh, great. Because I intentionally booked United over American. American I got to go to VIR, Virginia International Raceway. And the closest airport is Raleigh-Durham, but the most direct one was Charlotte. And it's like a 2-hour drive to the racetrack from there. But that was on American, and they were selling middle seats. So I booked on United because they weren't. And I'm going through DC or something. So, yeah, I got shammed, apparently. But I think I upgraded, so I think I'm okay anyway.
They can change it anytime.
Sorry, Chris, what was that?
They can change it anytime.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, it was a pretty pleasant experience. You know, the airports were all, I would say 95% of people were wearing masks. They were pretty, not very crowded. Baltimore was a little bit crowded, but West Palm Beach was dead. Columbus was really easy. And on the planes, obviously 100% of people were wearing masks. It was, you know, Southwest is just a glass of water and a little bag of carbs, nothing very special. But yeah, I mean, I felt pretty safe the whole time. It was pretty comfortable. The racetrack, they actually decided the morning of to allow fans, and they checked your temperature on the way in and out of the track, in the track, not out, sorry. And so the only time you really wore masks or felt the need to wear masks, I guess, was going to the bathroom, and you know, because they're big public bathrooms. But other than that, you know, and standing in line at the concessions or anytime you were in a crowd, but it just in our tent with our team or whatever, it was all pretty good. So yeah, I mean, pretty decent experience overall. So
Still no alcohol though, right? You got to stay with edibles.
no, yeah, no alcohol. And I mean, I think I would probably be, you know, a bit of a drunk if I needed alcohol on 2 flights that were like an hour and 10 minutes each or something. So
Don't judge us.
don't judge us.
Bloody
That's
Mary,
funny.
8 a.m. flights.
That's funny. So we actually, a minute ago, I saw Strickland here. Are you here, Michael?
I'm here.
Oh yeah, there you are.
Michael.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us. And I think for all of us, I would say thank you for your tireless work that you're doing on our behalf and of course on your own business and family's behalf. But, you know, you're doing amazing things and we appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I might, I wanted to bring everybody up to speed. I just sent an email out about 10 minutes ago updating this morning's email. And if you'll give me a couple of minutes, I've got it. I just hung up with 2 senators and 2 lawyers and 2 aides of where we sit exactly. And for those of you that read this morning's email, it was half fact and half opinion. And but now I have the facts. Congress goes on break Friday, and I put in the first email, if you read it, typically they start at noon on Monday and stop at noon on Friday. So they really only get half a day Monday and Friday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And a great number of Mondays and Fridays, they don't even work. But anyway, they passed the extension of the original PPP, which confuses people, yesterday late in the Senate. They passed it by unanimous consent. For those of you that didn't get the email, unanimous consent is a weapon or a tool that any senator or congressman can use. You can stand up and say, this is passing by unanimous consent. Well, to stop it, you only need 1 congressman or senator to oppose it, and it doesn't work. So the theory is that when somebody does it and it works, they all do agree. They passed the Senate the extension of the PPP by unanimous consent late yesterday. There's some housekeeping to do today, but they assure me it will pass the House by unanimous consent tomorrow. And they assure me it will be on the president's desk Friday to be signed. And the reason that this is important is theoretically at midnight last night, the original CARES Act PPP component expired. And there was a tremendous push to claw that money back and put it in the Treasury and use it elsewhere. So the two sides came together, kept that money captive until August 8th, which is when the next session ends. So that money is now on the table, which is $134.5 billion. Up until this last phone call, I thought we were going to be fishing in that pond. But the truth is that's just part of the money. So they're going to come back the 20th or the 21st, and it is priority to pass this. I'm assured they have bipartisan support on it, that all sides realize there is a small segment of industries that need it. Most of them are in leisure and hospitality, which is live entertainment, hotels, motels, restaurants, etc. So we sort of fit in there. I've sent most of you the conditions. You have to have received PPP previously. You have to have used it all. And you have to have had a 50% or greater reduction in revenue. And that includes individuals. So, and one of the previous conditions was it was going to be limited to $2 million per company or per person. But now that $2 million is not set in stone, because the $2 million in the original pass was based on an 8-week extension. They are now pushing for an extension to the end of the year. So the cap of $2 million per company is up in the air. They assure me that when they come back, that one of the first priorities will be this. Now, having said that, they also tell me absolutely 100% this will not be a clean bill standing on its own. It will be buried in the larger 5th relief bill. And you watched the first and the second one happen months ago, where it's tit for tat, trade this for that, making the sausage and going back and forth. Well, we're one element of it. The good news is we're one element of it that I've spoken to people on both sides of the aisle that they all agree this needs to be done. So the interesting thing is the liability protection that we spoke about previously obviously is in there, as I put in the last email. That is a bright line in the sand for the Republicans. It absolutely positively must be in there. The Republicans have another bright line in the sand, which is they will not extend the enhanced unemployment as it is, because a number of people were making more money, in some cases 250% more money than they did at their job. So there seems to be a consensus that there will be some type of enhanced unemployment, but it will be some kind of a formula whereby, and bear with me, I'm just making the numbers up. If you made $800 a week before, you'll make $700 a week on unemployment. It'll be some number less than what you did make, which would incentivize you to go back to work. Again, I'm told that they believe that will happen. The one element that's really wishy-washy is they're going to push as hard as they can to make this last till the end of the year. Both sides seem to be on board with that theory, but no one can say to me, yeah, it's going to happen. So obviously the 10 weeks that were in the bill that I sent to you all a week ago, that's out the window, because everyone knows that 10 weeks doesn't get the job done. So again, in asking the hard questions, and this was just 30 minutes ago, there will be a resolution that will be done before the end of July. It will give us some level of funding. They guarantee me that it will include the liability release, which is important all the way around, from venues to artists to those of us in this phone call. And there'll be some level of funding. Someone just emailed me and asked, because I didn't stick all the details in there, but it'll be like the last one. It's forgivable if you spend more than 60% on payroll. Having said that, there's a lot of discussion, as I put in the first email this morning, about a host of other kind of loosey-goosey issues. They're considering letting you just take the money and keep it on a 2% 20-year loan and spending it for whatever you want. So all those conversations are going to be had, but I am assured, and I do believe it, that there will be some form of relief by the end of July, and it included in that bill will be the liability protection that we also sorely need. And to wrap this all up, and I'm now wandering into opinion because of my medical role and being on the board at the hospital and all the things I know in the medical world. There are 6 major shots at a vaccine. There are over 600 people working on a vaccine, but there's 6 major ones. The ones that the medical community seem to have the most faith in are the Moderna and the AstraZeneca. There is actually there are 6 30,000 people trials that had begun last Monday. One of them is headquartered here in Knoxville at my hospital. It's a company called NOCAA, and it's a gentleman named Bill Smith, and he's the same guy that came up with the bird flu vaccine, and he also invented Chantix, for those of you that have had the pleasure of Chantix, and that's what Bill does. So I've spoken to Bill, and they're already in this 30,000 person trial, which is all over the world. The 6 major ones anticipate having the results that they need by the end of July, then has to go into peer review in the month of August. It then has to go into a second, if you will, clinical trial in September. And they anticipate, if all goes as planned, having a vaccine by the middle to the end of October, which means it would begin being distributed late November, early December.
Wow.
That's all theory, so please don't quote me on that, but they feel really good about it. And the one thing different now with this vaccine and this protocol is the way that typically works is you do all the steps, and then once you find the thing that works, then it takes them generally about 6 to 8 months to physically grow, because you have to grow the vaccine. Well, multiple companies are growing the vaccines now. Now, a lot of them will get to the finish line and realize the vaccine doesn't work and throw it away. But the federal government and people like Bill Gates have put literally billions of dollars into it, so that when these firms fail and they have to throw it all away, it didn't come out of their pocket. And that's what has flipped the model here. But they do believe in a number of these, but the AstraZeneca and the Moderna are the 2 that they have the most confidence in. And there's really a great sense that by the end of the year we'll have it. And the good news is they'll have grown all of these vaccines, and they'll be able to distribute them fairly quickly. So that bodes well for us moving into the first quarter of 2001. The pure opinion thing, and please forgive me for putting this out there, but when I wrote that letter about June 30th being a critical date, it was a critical date. And people are not dying in droves. There's more sick people, but it's young people. You've heard this on television. Hospitalizations are indeed up, but they're up because we as hospitals work at 100%. It's just like a hotel. We don't want an empty room. There are a lot of infected people, but the death rate and the critical care rate is still extraordinarily low for the most part. So, we're going to wander through this. And again, this is a medically based opinion, but I believe regardless of where the medical situation ends up, I don't believe the political situation is going to clear up for us. I think the political situation is going to keep live shows shut down through September, October, and we all on this call know that nothing's going to happen in December and January. Now, I could be wrong, but the feel of the political situation right now seems to be that we may see some small level of work in September and October, but I think all of you on here probably know, you've probably all gotten the phone calls from your clients. Yeah, we're putting it off. Yeah, we're putting it off. Yeah, we're putting it off. We still have 6 or 7 artists that tell us that they're going to do a tour, but it's not any of the big ones. And so we're very dependent on what this legislation does. Again, I was just assured, and I told the senators what I was going to say, that they feel very confident we will receive a level of funding like we did before, hopefully to carry us to the end of the year. It will be forgivable. And There's light at the end of this tunnel. And with that, I'll
That's amazing.
take questions.
Yeah, Michael, I actually have a few questions, and because I'm the host, I get to go first. So first, how deep do you think the indemnification will go?
They tell me 100%. And think about this. For those of you that own companies, right now, if you have an employee get sick at work, flu, anything, they cannot sue you. And by federal law in the United States, the only recourse that an employee has against an employer is workers' compensation. If they get hurt, they go to workers' compensation. They are crafting funding for the insurance companies to deal with COVID claims. And that sits us, to the left of us, but it's part of the protection for us. So any COVID claims that might arise would theoretically be dealt with through workers' comp. But those of you that own companies know workers' comp is state by state. Although there's federal legislation, it's a state-controlled issue. So they assure me it will be 100% for venues, for employers, that they're going to make it just like the flu or anything else. You just can't go after somebody because you're sick.
And if you were a betting man, what would you say the probability of that happening is? You think it's very good? Yeah.
Very good. And here's why. The Democrats are against it, but not really. And I'm not being political. In that world, they all get chips, don't they? They all get things, and then they trade and they bargain. I think everybody across the board knows that that's a good thing. It protects all of us. The only people that don't like it are, as I said, the American Trial Lawyers Association, because they want lawsuits. And that's coming from a lawyer. I went to law school, so I'm not
Speaking out of line,
dirt
yeah.
on lawyers.
Yeah. So on the PPP, the new round of PPP, is the application process going to be simpler because it's for people who already applied and got PPP?
I am told, for those of you that have done it, you did the federal application, if you will, the SBA piece. And then once that was approved and you had a number, you then went and dealt with your lender and executed a loan. You will simply execute the loan again. You will not do the application again. It is meant to be based on the prior paperwork. So you go to the lender that you dealt with and sign another loan.
There'll probably be a declaration again stating that we lost 50% of our income or more, or we did this. And you mentioned individuals as well. And speaking with individuals, including many people who are on this happy hour, I don't know of anyone who's had success in getting PPP money as an individual. So, yeah, I mean, is there anyone on here who as an individual, got PPP funding?
I didn't get funding, but I applied last night and I got approved for X amount of money. And then they asked me to upload documentation, which got me to that number. It was a bank statement. And then I had to finish the application. I did it through Bluebond and uploaded the information they wanted to. 2 hours later, got a letter saying they didn't have the appropriate documentation, even though I sent it to them. So I've been on waiting to get them on the phone, see what's going on. But I've been on, they give you the option to save your number. And I called them at 8 o'clock this morning and they haven't called me yet. So I'm
But is there anybody here who actually did get funded?
No. Same thing happened to me. I not enough documentation, even though I sent all my documentation through, I went through PayPal, I went through my own bank, doesn't work.
I know several people, individuals that did, and indeed I helped several people get through the process. So I know that it does work.
And is it based on just paying yourself a wage? How does that work? Because PPP is all based on payroll.
Well, if you're 1099, you've got the 1099 forms, and I assume that's what you all sent in is the 1099 forms. And
okay,
I get it. One of the traps that several people that I helped, and some of you on this call may be in the same category. If you worked 9 months for an act and you were paid via 1099, they take, let's say that you made $80,000. They annualize that. They take $80,000 divided by 12 times 2.5. So all of a sudden, the amount of money you get is 2.5 months of an annualized amount of money that isn't really a year's worth of money. So a lot of people got trapped by the fact that they did not work 12 months. But theoretically,
So they're not just going to assume, they're not, if you work 2 months and made $80,000, they're not going to take that times 6 divided by 12 times 2.5.
they take 80,000
Yeah.
divided by 12 times 2.5.
Right. I get it.
And
Last
you
question from me, and then I'll shut up.
You can stick together multiple 1099s. It doesn't have to be one. And you can have 1099 income and you can have W-2 income and put that together. And
So you basically, if you have W-2 and 1099, you can combine it into
turn
one.
them both in.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah, Marcel, I can attest to the fact that we do. I was helping a programmer that's rather prominent. I don't want to say his name because I'm talking about his personal information, but he applied for PPP last 2 weeks, and we're happy to find out that last week he did get approved for it through PayPal.
Oh, that's great. Good. Excellent.
Now, let me throw this in about that, Patrick, and all of you indeed. 2 things. Number one, and I put this in this morning's letter, one of the known issues at this moment is, and I don't know how much you all know about how financial institutions work, but every bank in the world has to have a number, and usually it's around 10% of their deposits in, physically in cash in their hand. So they can only loan 90% of their deposits, and that's sort of a shell game. Well, a lot of the lenders have gotten to the point that they're close to where they can't lend any more money. Well, they have other loans. They want to loan money against real estate and real things. So a lot of the lenders have hit a wall, and they're just going, we're not doing any more PPP loans. So they're working with the financial institutions right now to incentivize them, because these loans are not extraordinarily profitable for them compared to a normal loan. Now let's look at the other side of that. The other side of it is nobody's borrowing any money right now.
Yeah.
So, but they're forward looking and thinking that people will be borrowing money in the future. So you run up against that, and then the other thing that you run up against as an individual is that the process requires you to really stay after it. I mean, you've just got to work. And for those of you that get stuck, email or call your congressman or your senator in your area, because most of them will help you. And I've gotten several people hooked up with several congressmen and senators whose offices indeed led them to a lender that would facilitate.
That's cool. Very last question from me, and then I'll shut up, is, and I don't even know, but did Garth officially cancel the Vegas thing, or is that still on?
Not yet. We still have, Vegas is still on for August 22nd, and Charlotte is still on for October the 10th. We did move Cincinnati into 2021. And that's
so, is Vegas really going to happen in a stadium?
You got to realize Garth promotes himself, manages himself, owns everything except the lighting system, owns the stage, owns the trucks, owns the buses.
Yeah.
He's not dependent on anybody other
Yeah,
than
he ain't waiting on anybody else to make a decision. Right.
So that's between him, the venue, and the city.
Yeah.
And until the venue and or the city pulls the plug, no. And here's what I'm being told, and some of you live in Las Vegas, that's the football stadium, isn't it? Well, right now, Jimmy Haslam is my friend who owns the Cleveland Browns. Right now, NFL's going. They're going with full stadiums. And that stadium, especially, grand opening, the Raiders have moved there, blah, 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 blah. So they're keeping that dream alive. And Garth is sort of, part of that, isn't he? I mean, from one point of view, if the August 22nd Garth show falls, then does something happen to the NFL? Who knows?
Yeah. It could be problematic.
I believe if we do cancel it, we will cancel it probably by July 15th. That's just a guess. Garth didn't tell me that, but that's my greatest sense.
Very cool. Anyone?
I'm not sure if it'll have effect, but the NFL just a few minutes ago announced a shortening of the preseason dates.
Yeah, that was planned. That was baked in all along. The Hall of Fame game went away, and the preseason games weren't supposed to happen. They're supposed to start September 4th or 8th, I forget which, with the regular season game. Or maybe it's the 11th.
I have a question for Michael.
Shoot.
Yeah, Michael, my question is, I had a PPP. I ran out in the 16th of last month. Do you think I need to conclude that and ask for forgiveness before I would re-up for your second half? Or I've been advised not to because they feel like that might be actually made simpler to just a simple forgiveness, and that it's been my interest not to close it out yet. Your opinion?
I really don't have one because you can ask for forgiveness at any point in time. One thing they haven't clarified is if you didn't ask for, in the original 8-week term, if you didn't ask for forgiveness by a certain date, then interest began accruing 6 weeks after the end of your date. And I'm not sure right now because they're purportedly going to redo all of that. You know, if you're asking my opinion, if it was me, I would go ahead and get the forgiveness now and get it over with and get it behind me. But that's just my opinion based on why not. I don't see an upside to keeping it alive because it shows up on your books as a payable, and that's just an opinion.
So Bob Williams typed in a question. Have you heard any more on the Main Street lending program? And if there may be a chance that there could be better terms when it actually starts?
I don't really look at the Main Street lending or the EIDL. I'm more familiar with the EIDL, which is 3.75% for 5 years. I can borrow money cheaper than that, so it's of no interest to me. But some people can't. But the Main Street lending, I've got to admit, I'm not up to speed on that one. I apologize.
They're offering 5-year terms on it, but it's like 3.5%. In the third year, you start paying interest. I'm sorry, the second year you start paying interest, and in the third, fourth, and fifth years, you pay back 15%, 15%, and then 70%. So, but it's you can get up to like 6 times your annual gross, adjusted gross, but it's just the terms are terrible on it.
Yeah. And then to me, the EIDL is not attractive because of the rate. Money's cheap right now, if you can get it. But.
Yep. Any other questions here for Michael? Wow, you're getting let off easy here, Michael.
Well, I hope I was of some help.
Absolutely.
He's done such a good job compiling all of that into his letters.
Well, and communicating,
fantastic. So thank you again, Michael. It's a real big help. And as Michael has said, push it on to your friends. I've been trying to post it on Facebook and help other people that are not in the communication chain with that. And it's definitely helped a lot of people outside that direct contact. So I encourage everybody to do that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Michael.
No, and again, Michael, we all appreciate you very much and the incredible amount of work you've been doing. I know it's become a full-time job unto itself. So
push it anywhere and everywhere you can, because that's the strength. And you know, I don't know that any of you would ever hear that, but I do, because I'm talking to those people, and I'll be talking to one of the senators or Congress people, and they were talking to one of the others, you know, somebody that you all emailed, and you know, your people, because the truth is, if I email a senator from Nevada, it in some cases doesn't even get through, because the machine knows I'm not from Nevada. I don't know how. So, you know, I've emailed all 100 senators, but you know, only 6 or 8 of them actually got it. So the power is in you doing it, and we are having an effect. And if you ever see it on the news, you now see them saying entertainment, because of what we're doing. They are aware of the situation that we're in. Feel free to broadcast any and all of that in as many forms of social media as you can. Now, let me go a step farther. I don't know if I touched on this last time or not, and I'm glad I just remembered this. I spent a lot of time, and I'm 1 step into probably a 10-step journey with NAM. And I mentioned this last time or not, but And all of my wandering around and talking to people, you know, we're a bunch of gypsies. We don't have an organization, really. We don't have a lobbying force. We don't have a singular voice. The biggest singular voice I found was NAM. NAM's got 250,000+ people. And in talking to Joe Lamond, they are already lobbying on our behalf. They have a lobbying firm that they pay an incredible amount of money to lobby for NAM, and you know who that is. That's music stores and guitar makers and all that. Well, what NAM has discovered in this is great organization. All of these years, they've got all the people that make the stuff and sell the stuff, and they've got the rock stars, because the rock stars, you know, get the endorsements. And if you've never been to NAM, it's incredible, because you go to NAM and there's Taylor Swift on the stage signing autographs, and over there's John Bon Jovi, and you're like, wait a minute, what are these superstars doing here? But that's the connect that NAM has. So, and I went to NAM the last 3 years and was blown away by it. What they discovered this year is that they've got this piece and they've got the pop stars, but right now nobody's buying anything because there's no live shows. And they now understand that live shows drive a lot of the music store sales. So they're kind of dead in the water too, not because they're closed per se, because a lot of them have online presences, but they now understand that the live piece is part, you know, the kids have got to see John Bon Jovi playing whatever the guitar may be. So they realize we're kind of vital to them. Well, what I realized was they're kind of vital to us, because if you take the various media that we work with, all of the magazines, and if you marry that to NAM, and if you marry that to us, the people that deliver the live shows, and then NAM becomes the voice the next time we have one of these situations, guess what? We've got a voice. Now, what I'm going to do, and others, and I've spoken to some of you, is go around and speak with the major manufacturers of sound and lights and video, and the major hire companies and the minor hire companies, and anyone that wants to be involved. What we're going to have to do is join NAM, you know, and it's like $100. I mean, it's no big deal.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We should all join NAM.
So first thing is we're all going to join NAM. I'm now urging the manufacturers, as you know, if you've been there, we now have a tiny presence on the show floor. It needs to be a bigger presence amongst the manufacturers. So we get the manufacturers more engaged. We get the membership up. The win for NAM is increased membership, increased displays on the floor. We get the various publications more involved in the whole thing. And then the larger companies are going to have to step to the plate and donate some money to their lobbying effort. And I'm willing to do it. And I've talked to manufacturers and I've talked to other hire companies, but a rising tide floats all boats, and they're lobbying for us right now for free. And I hope to, by next February or March, talk to a bunch of people, have this put together, get us all kind of glued together, so the next time that we as an industry experience something like this, God forbid that we do, but that we have a voice, because right now we don't. So, right. And I'm excited about that, and you'll get an email about it as soon as I get it worked out. But that's,
well, and along those lines, like, you know, it's a very good point, because one of the things is NAM is a much larger organization than any organization in our industry. So I know that in Europe and I don't know if we have anyone on here. Hang on a second. I think we have Steve here, Steve Warren. Is he here? Steve Warren, are you here?
He was.
I'm
yeah.
Here.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, Plaza has been doing this We Make Events thing, and they've created a video, and they've done, I think on a sort of micro level, they're trying to do some of the things that NAM is doing and that you're doing, Michael. And they're doing a really great job. And a lot of European companies, especially including AVO, are really supporting that effort and helping push it forward and helping to publicize it and stuff. So, but the problem is, you know, numbers bring power, I think, and you need to swing a bigger stick, and sometimes that just means a larger organization is going to do a much better job, like NAM. So, you know, perhaps we could even push Plaza to somehow, you know, coexist with NAM and work together, because at the end of the day, you know, everyone needs everyone at this point. So
Marcel, just while the call was going on, I just fired off an email to Coy saying exactly that. I think we would really benefit by getting the managing director of Plaza in a conversation with you, Michael. And I literally just while you were talking, I just fired that over to him because it's the methodology. It's trying to find now. I know it's two completely different systems, but they must have a lot of similarities. And I feel, Plaza really want to help, but I think they're struggling to know exactly what the next step is, other than raising awareness and all the things we already know about. We need to look at how the lobbying actually works, and there is a great deal of support for it. So I'd be very keen.
Hey, Steve.
Try and take that up with you, Michael, tomorrow.
And Steve, to your point, this is not exclusionary, and if I have made it sound that way,
not at all.
Forgive me. I think the more voices, the better. I speak daily to upstaging folks and PRG folks, and folks that from one point of view would sit in a competitive chair to me, but that's irrelevant at this point in time. I want the industry that has been so kind to me and that I have loved to work in for 52 years to come out the other end of this good.
We'll get back on our feet. I loved your phrase, the rising tide floats all boats. Floats all boats. I wrote that down because I think that's absolutely right. That's a classic.
But we've got, there's multiple.
NAM's been such a powerful voice. I think it would also be, that would also be helpful to try and understand that via Michael.
There's multiple publications, there's multiple entities. Anybody that wants to just reach out to me, I'll glue it all together because they are by far, the money, I can't reveal it, but the money that they already spend on lobbying just blew me away. And the rest of us are just talking about forming something. They're already doing it, not to do with COVID, just in general. So it makes sense, and Joe and the good people at NAM are happy to do it. And again, that's kind of my two missions right now are one, to get this extra money coming to us, and then two, to get get our arms around one another as an entity, so that the next time we have something like this occur, we're not just going, well, what do we do?
Well, and Steve, for sure, if there's any way we can get Plaza working with NAM, I think that by combining some of these organizations, and I know everyone has their own, agenda and their own needs and their own whatever, but at this point, when we're talking about this topic, it's probably a very good idea to get these people working together as much as we can, if we can. And I'd
be really surprised if they weren't prepared to devote some time to it, because I really do think they're struggling to find the next step forward. And that's exactly what occurred to me listening to this and reading Michael's email earlier. I thought,
well, one of the challenges we've had as an industry is we've had these sort of splinter factions, and I can't remember the first one, the Live Events Coalition. Where'd that go? I haven't seen anything about the Live Events Coalition. The problem is, like I said, it takes a much more enormous group of individuals, and as Michael knows, an incredible focus and an incredible amount of work to push this thing forward and to drive an agenda and get people to listen to you. So, these little tiny splinter organizations aren't going to do it. It's just not going to work. And by the way, Steve, I'm digging the COVID hairdo.
No, hey.
I love it, man.
You know what? I just go to a regular barber who you just walk in every time, that's it. And suddenly she emailed me back to say, can you make an appointment? I was like, what? They open up. Everything opens up here. Well, not everything, but we have quite a big step on the 4th of July, which is Saturday, I think.
Yeah, which is funny because here in Florida, everything's closing on the 4th of July, all our beaches and, because of the rising numbers here or whatever.
Out here in California too, same exact thing. All the beaches, starting from the 3rd, I think everything's shut down. So
well, and indoor, I just read somebody, Wiseman or someone, maybe Eric Loader, sent Featherstone. That's who it was. It's part of this little text group we're in, but Featherstone sent an article about Newsom closing indoor, a lot of indoor things and stuff. So
thanks.
Restaurants again for LA County.
Yeah, it's scary when you see the numbers climbing like they have in Florida, and you have to do something in reaction to it. You can't just sit back quietly and watch that happen, I guess. So yeah, it's not that shocking that they're backpedaling on some of the decisions they've already made. So here we go. Good times. It's the cold that never goes away. I've had some of those.
Going back to the NAM thing, ESTA has already scooched up with NAM. They did that a couple of years ago. So you've got ESTA scooched up in there. And again, I'm not trying to be, nor do I intend to be, nor do I want to be exclusionary. So any and all ideas, and going back to Elaine's thing, the one you mentioned, Marcel.
Live Events Coalition.
Live Events Coalition, that's Elaine. She and I talk every other day. It's still very much there, but again, it's one of those things where you got a lot of people together. They made a really good video, and now what do you do next? And there's a lot of those out there. And there's like the NITO, the National Independent Venues. There's all those things, and I'm reaching out to all of those things because again, they're all kind of part of this, and we all have a common goal in surviving and getting the business open again.
Marion Sandberg would like to speak. So I think we should all shut up and let her speak.
I've been on enough of these calls where I feel like sometimes you just have to raise your hand. Hey, all, and Michael, Marion from LDI. I'm not being against NAM. I'm just wondering for our community, and Steve talked about Plaza, which I think is a great point, and a great organization. And of course the ESTA and, LDI in the States. I'm just wondering, like none of us has these kind of lobbying dollars, the things you're talking about, which is a really important element. Is it worth us trying to have, our own coalition in some way that is, we're all, the Plazas and the LDIs and ESTA are very specifically about this like entertainment technology sector in a way that NAM is a little bigger than we are. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Do we get lost in the mix or go on the coattails of that lobbying, which could totally work out? Or do we try to do a separate thing? The Live Events Coalition that someone brought up, I mean, I emailed them. I don't know who they are, by the way. I know people are members, to volunteer. I volunteered LDI's list, which is, tens and tens of thousands of people to figure out how I could participate in that. And it didn't ever go anywhere. Mainly because no one responded, and that's not a dig. That means everybody's very busy and hopefully doing great things. But is there something, NAM, as we all know, is music retailers and a lot of instruments and some. Is there something more grassroots that's worth us all coming together in the way that you've done, Michael, which is very specific to our industry?
My short answer to that would be no, and here's the reason why. Okay. If I could reveal to you the amount of money that NAM spends on lobbying, it would stun you. It's bigger than the gross of some companies on this phone call. When I saw the number, and that's nothing to do with COVID, it's what they do.
No, it's what they do. It's what they do, Michael, because of the education part of their focus, right? Because they're totally focused on the educational and getting kids musical instruments in kids' hands in schools. So that's why they spend that money.
And they're the 10,000-pound gorilla when it comes to lobbying. And I didn't know that until, 3 weeks ago. And for those of you that have been to the Parnelli Awards, you've heard me say twice, and I mean this, the 125,000 people standing at NAM want to be in that room at the Parnellis because they dream about being a guitar player or a singer or a drummer, and they want to work at the level that we work at and be a rock star. So, the tie is kind of natural. But they've got that house built, and Marion, to your point, I've looked at all the other alternatives, and the money is just so tiny. And I've had conversations with many organizations, and it ends up with, well, we've got $10,000. Well, you can't talk to a lobbying firm for $10,000.
Yeah. No, Michael, you're making a great point, and it's exactly what I think. Size matters in this situation, and so I think that instead of trying to build something like NAM, you just sell out completely, and you go to NAM and say, hey, we've got 10,000 people that are from this part of the industry. You go to USITT and say, USITT, we want to bring you into NAM. We've got 20,000 people that are from the theater part of the industry. We've got, and you build NAM's, if you're talking about tens of thousands in our industry in a mailing list, NAM probably has you know, 500,000 or 1 million people in their mailing list, and
Bigger than
you
that.
add our couple 100,000 or 300,000 on top of that, and we're talking about something that's very powerful. And they can't, like Michael will tell you, you know, size matters. And when you've got a couple million people and you've got, you know, that lobbying power and the money behind it, and I would be happy to donate money to NAM as part of our industry, you know, coming together with NAM. They can't turn away from that. They can't ignore it.
NAM actually pays this lobbying firm a retainer monthly, and the retainer is bigger than any number I've heard from any other organization for their yearly budget.
Wow.
And, again, the big companies and the big manufacturers are going to need to step up annually with at least 5 figures. You know, 10 grand a piece times, you know, 100 companies across the board.
It's like 100,000.
Yeah, they didn't say that. I'm just saying we've got to realize that we have a stake in this.
Yeah, I was just being stupid with my math, of course.
I mean, full disclosure, I've been consulting with NAM for the last 4 years. A lot of people know that on here. And I will say it is the perfect crossroads for our industry. And it's a beautiful thing. And I'm glad Michael's on board and bringing that weight. So it's really impressive. And thank you, Michael, for everything.
And Matt, I have nothing to do with NAM. can't play an instrument.
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, I do what I do. And I just sort of stumbled into this. And I'm not going to gain from it. I don't get paid to do it.
I don't either.
It's laying there. It's obvious. And you know, the big win for NAM eventually, and this is what they want, and we're all being honest, and Eric Loader, you've been there, you know what I'm about to say. They want 10 times as many booths on the trade show floor from our sector as they have now. And there's the big win for them.
Yeah,
of course.
But if they're lobbying for us now, you know, that's seems like a no-brainer for everybody.
But also they've been trying for the last couple of years to help out our industry. And I think with ESTA and the Parnellis, it's been a slow building process.
And a handful of manufacturers like Elation and Chauvet and Megalite and I think Tomcat, you know, there's been a handful.
Four Wall's been there, you know, AI, you know, ACT lighting. It's good. It's a good thing.
Yep. Does anyone else have anything to ask Mr. Strickland here while we've got his full attention?
Strickland, should we be reaching out to our contacts in Congress to follow up on any of this stuff? You said to sort of stand by in the last couple emails.
2 answers to that, Chris. First, if you know somebody personally, please do. But if you don't, if it's just going to be a letter, I hope to have the letter for you tomorrow, now that I have clarity on what it needs to say. What I was dealing with since last week was all of my political friends telling me to put the brakes on it, because when I first found out about the Cardin bill, the one that I emailed out to most of you, my Republican friends went, no. And they knew that the Cardin bill would never see the light of day, and it didn't. But luckily now you've got Cardin and Rubio working together hand in hand. I've seen some of the byproduct of it. It is a bipartisan effort. It feels good. And that's what we want to get behind. And that's why the missteps were there. So hopefully by tomorrow, I'll have another one of those little bitty, you know, here's what you need to cut and paste and put in and blast out in mass. And again, I think I said this before, the only reason I'm doing this was I had the good fortune or the bad fortune to know 2 senators and 2 congressmen intimately. And that's the only reason I'm able to do this.
Michael, are they all on the same side, or are they bipartisan?
They're all on the same side.
Right. So you haven't actually had conversations with
Oh
the
no,
other
I've
side
had conversations in every direction. The 4 that I know personally are from here, because Tennessee's been Republican since before the Civil War.
Right.
So that's how I know them. Jimmy Duncan, who used to be the congressman from this area, is one of my dearest friends. He's retired, and he left last fall. But Jimmy's taken several of my letters to Mark Meadows, who's the White House Chief of Staff, and to Pence, who's the vice president, and then a couple of them he's even gotten to Trump because he's friends with all those people. So, you know, there's no politics in this for me. These are the decision makers. I've also spoke to Cardin about his bill, and you know, spoke to several other Democrats about their stuff. But at any rate, we'll have the letter, and we'll get it out. And if anybody knows any senators or congressmen personally, yeah, call them and just bend their ear.
Yeah, I mean, I've been regularly checking in with, you know, you should regularly check in with your senator, and it doesn't help to do so with a little donation. And, you know, if you do that on the regular, you'll make some progress.
Cool.
I
so
didn't.
you're paying off politicians, Chris? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, hell yeah! Whatever we need to do to get through this, you know, some regular money to politicians helps.
They say Chicago is corrupt. It's New Jersey.
Yeah.
Did you watch The Sopranos?
And be sure to ask Greg Brunswick what a leaning jowler is.
You better be careful with Greg, because before this call, he told me that he's got some funny stories about you, Michael. Here we go.
No, I'm not going there. But I did want to ask, Michael, if you think that while these guys are on recess from actual duty, they might have more time to review some of the stuff we send. I mean, if they're embroiled in meetings and all of that while they're in session, are we better off getting some of this, you know, some of our sentiments to them while they're on break? I think he locked up.
Michael froze with a big smile.
I think he got scared of what I had on him.
See how quickly he hung up? As soon as we started talking shit about him, he hung up just like that. Boom, gone.
Anyway,
I'm sure he'll be back here momentarily.
I had a wonderment about that. While these guys are on break and back to their local offices and all of that, if it might be a better time than usual to ping them.
My guess is they don't do shit when they're on break. I'm just guessing. My opinion of government officials is pretty low, though. So I get the feeling they don't do a heck of a lot when they're on break.
Well, specifically when they're on break is when they're supposed to be communicating with their constituents.
Right.
Is that true?
Let's say what they're doing when they're on break, folks. They're working on being reelected. So contacting them then is good, because that's one of their biggest jobs, is raising money and raising awareness to make sure that they get voted back in.
Yeah.
Listen to Roth. He's a smart guy.
Yep. Yeah.
Mongo only pawn in game of life.
So is somebody just bringing you food, Robert? Like they just keep bringing plates and putting it on your desk and stuff?
Somebody is doing that.
That's awesome.
My girlfriend's doing all that. So
of course.
I mean, I actually have made it up and down the stairs on my own. So
yeah, I was gonna say, isn't your office upstairs, as I recall?
Yeah.
Yeah. What a pain in the ass. You haven't put in like a one of those elevator things or something?
I will be off crutches within a week.
Oh, well. If we read a story that Mr. Roth has had a small accident falling down the stairs, then we shouldn't be completely shocked, right?
Don't worry about it. We're under control, believe me.
You're not going to get one of those chairs that you ride up the stairs backwards?
No, my mother had one of those. I don't need one.
Oh, yeah.
She spent the last 10 years of her life with one of those things. So.
Oh, really?
No, the problem is now I have time to go ride and, you know, do things, and I can't go do that right now.
Yeah.
But enough of that.
So I'm assuming that Michael is trying to make his way back here. Patrick Whalen, what do you got going on? I haven't heard from you in like weeks.
Sorry about that. Just doing a little drone flying and having a little good time with that, and then I'm getting paid to do it now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
That's
I've done
funny.
some real estate, a couple of inspections, and some influencer shots. So backstage aerial is in operation and fully insured.
When you say influencer shots, like you're flying over Kim Kardashian's backyard over her pool or something illegally, is that what you're doing?
No, but that is a great idea. I'd make a lot more money.
That's funny.
And sailing trip next week, so I won't be on the call. Or actually, I'll be on the call Thursday. We go sailing for 5 days.
Where do you go? You don't just go to like Catalina or something, do you?
No, we go backside of Catalina and go out 100 miles or so and, you know, stay on the boat overnight and do overnight sails and dodge container ships and all the stuff that movies are made of.
3-hour tour.
Yep.
Yeah.
And hopefully dream about working again in production. And I do have a drive-in movie theater that I've quoted, so we'll see what happens if the city allows that to happen in Los Angeles, which it won't, but.
Yeah. You know, somebody a long time ago on this call, and I can't remember who it was, but somebody said that these drive-in concerts are actually hurting us instead of helping us because people think we're okay. And so someone today, it was actually my sister today, said that they're allowing festivals in Alberta, Canada now. And I said, wow, that's amazing. And she goes, yeah, small festivals, like 200 people. And I'm going, well, that's not a festival. Like 200 people is a puppet show, you know? And that doesn't help us. Like that just gives false, you know, like it makes people believe that our business is great and wonderful, but it isn't so great and wonderful right now.
The drive-in theater that we quoted was for a private client on one of their properties for their guests as a VIP kind of offering. And I mean, so it's very closed.
If you've got a drive-in theater in your yard in LA, you're not struggling for cash, I'm guessing.
No, it's one of the automakers. So they're doing it for their VIP clients, and it's limited to, I think,
Elon
50 cars a night, and it's for 3 days, and it's broadcast through FM, and they have segmented bathrooms and everything. The only thing that's going for them is they're in the city outside of LA County, so hopefully it doesn't fall under the rules for LA, or they don't follow them.
As long as it's not Orange County.
Michael, we fear that you left because Greg had some dirt on you or something, but it's okay. He already told us the story and it wasn't that bad.
No, we lost internet at the office. It just went away.
Greg,
None of that is true, Michael. None of that.
What was your question, Greg?
Greg and I toured together, so I have stories on him.
Oh, we know that. Yeah.
We're listening.
Yeah.
So I just asked while you were gone, and we went off on it, but if whether or not these congressmen who are going to be on recess here shortly are actually more available, if you will, for our letters and all of that, being that they're not in business in session. You know, and somebody else mentioned when they're home, they're supposed to be working on reelection and, you know, meeting the needs of their constituents. So I would think that they're reading some of these letters and getting more up to speed on this stuff when they're off. So we should bombard them now, is my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the reason, the theoretical reason that Congress takes breaks is to go back and work their district. And they all have offices scattered amongst their district, and they're supposed to physically go to them. But yes, you're right, Greg. This is a better time than when they're in session, because when they're in session, they're in session. The letters, and I've shared this with other people, they don't actually read these things. They go to their aides, and their aides basically have a spreadsheet. And I think I've said this before. We got 22 letters on cruelty to animals. We got 15 letters on the price of tea in China. And Lord God, we got 200 letters about the entertainment industry being in trouble. And they give them daily a spreadsheet with the numbers on it, and then they give them a little brief saying that these, and that's why it's important that our letters all read the same. They say these people are all sending the same letter, and it says two things: that they need money, and they need it through the end of the year. And so yes, to your point, Greg, this is a better time to get it to them.
Cool.
Well, then it should be at the top of all of our priority lists. Yep.
That's why I hope that I would have had the letter done now, but I've been on, this is my 5th Zoom today, and I'll do the letter after this Zoom.
Well, we'll try not to keep you too long then. So, what else? What else we got here, folks? Anyone? You're a lively bunch today. Herrick, you've been quiet. Why?
I got nothing. It's been nice listening to everybody talk.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks.
It's never happened before. It's never happened.
You know, I haven't started drinking yet. It's early.
Okay.
Thanks, Marion.
Well, I haven't known Herrick that long, but I do know that he typically has an opinion. So
just a little.
Yeah. David Barber. So we got some rather disappointing news, I guess, yesterday, right? Your mic's off, bud.
We did? What news?
The Broadway closing.
Oh, I was so resigned to that. It was not a surprise.
Really?
I mean, it was very clear. The Charlotte St. Martin, who runs the Broadway League, had been saying it privately for months.
Yeah, so it wasn't coming back in 2020?
There are now 6 Broadway shows that have opening dates, and they're all for April and into May.
Oh my God.
And I think there'll probably be 3 or 4 more that will announce, in the next couple of weeks.
Hey, David.
So,
David, what's going on in the West? Do you know anything about the West End? Or Stephen, do you know anything? I heard they're going to start doing a tour of 6 or something like that over
It's
there?
like a drive-in tour or something like that. The West End is closed. No one thinks the West End's going to be open before January. And I've talked with Brian Raven at White Light about that. And a couple of really big musicals that were supposed to open in London in the fall all got put off to 2021.
So, there's our industry, and we know what all our people are doing or not doing right now. But what do, like, all these Broadway actors and actresses, and what do they do?
Well, if they were working for a show, then they can go, for unemployment. And if they weren't, it would really depend on what they were doing. If they had a day job, then they could probably go for unemployment that way as well, depending on what their job was.
They're paid as W-2 employees?
You mean on a show? Well, again, if it's a Broadway show, if they're working for a not-for-profit theater or they're doing a showcase, there are many different levels of contracts.
Right.
And they all have different stipulations.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. My aunt and uncle are Broadway actors. My uncle was currently standing by for the Lehman trilogy that was set to be opened up.
Patrick, who is it?
Tom Galantich.
Oh, okay, great.
And they are relegated to just straight unemployment at this point, unfortunately.
I hear the unions are like IATSE and I think Equity are like really trying to lobby something because I guess unemployment's running out or something like that. Have you heard anything, David?
Well, it would be running out around now.
Yeah, everybody's about to panic. It's like all the actors, all the wait staff, everybody who runs New York is about to not be able to pay rent. So coming in September, we're going to see, I don't know what, people are going to be homeless, or they're going to move home with their folks, or whatever their safety net is going to be, is much like the live event industry that's represented here. It's going to be a thing.
Michael was talking about December. So.
Whoa. Your mic just went crazy.
Somebody patched in a stereo defecator.
No. You're muted now.
To
audio guy on the call.
Guys, to Herrick's point, and going back to Michael, Michael, you had mentioned something in your letter yesterday about the next round requiring you to have already received it. Is that straight across the board, meaning that if you haven't received it yet or aren't able to get it within the next 5 weeks that you are going to be ineligible for the next
As
round?
it stands right now, yes, you've got to have previously received it, previously accrued payroll, and previously paid the payroll. So I think for somebody that got money tomorrow, you'd be hard pressed. Let's say you own a company and you've got 10 employees, you'd be hard pressed to get the money and spend the money and then qualify for a second round. So
And
I guess
you can't backdate that to apply to the fact that, okay.
But you could. Right now, the first round is 8 weeks of life. It's 2.5, which is for 10 weeks of money, and you've got 8 weeks to accrue it and spend it. So I guess if you got PPP, let's say July 10th, that would be August 10th, September 10th. Yeah, I guess you could do that and then go apply at the tail end of it all, because it's going to go supposedly till the end of the year. But for most of us, we've already gotten the money. It is already gone, and
but I think it's a rather pointed thing for everybody if you're helping others still trying to get PPP. And a lot of people that I've been helping with this have sort of rested on their laurels because they've been a bit altruistic in trying to go after this money.
A lot of people
feeling that they don't need it to stay afloat right now, so they haven't gone after it. And I've been pushing all of them to completely disregard that, as we joked many meetings ago with my Robert Mokry saying, you can always give the money back, go get it now, which was, I think, one of the most pertinent things about that. Now to be in this situation, it becomes even more detrimental because those that have been holding out because they figure, well, I don't need it until September, October anyway, and I'm sure we'll be back by then. We ain't going to be back by then. And it's going to be even more detrimental to them that they haven't. So if you're helping anybody, push them even harder right now to try and get this through, because the funding's there, the ability's there, and they're not going to be eligible for the next round that will really save them.
And Patrick, the tied into that, the 500-pound white elephant in the room, and I've had this conversation literally with hundreds of people. Around the 1st of June, here's what we began to see, and again, I've developed a lot of new friendships with people I never knew. I have countless conversations. I've helped people. It has moved to the point, and I've talked to people on this phone call, that individuals and companies that have great individuals working there, these people are beginning to move out of our industry and into other industries, and they don't plan on coming back. I know a lot of people that have moved into IT firms and gone to work for hospitals and other things that were extraordinarily bright and brilliant people within this industry, and they've come to me and said, you know, I'm gonna stay at the IT firm, or I'm gonna stay at the hospital, or I'm gonna stay where, because those folks will always be there. And now that I know that show business can get crippled, I don't have any interest in going back. And I think the longer this drags on, the more of that we'll see. Simply because none of us ever thought this was happening. Somebody explained to me that as a freelancer, I always had 4 months of money saved up. Who knew that wouldn't be enough?
Yeah.
And
we're seeing it. We're seeing it as well with our subcontractors at CT as well, going on to other and bigger things.
And never to come back.
Yeah, we believe the same.
Some of them have actually told me that, you know, hey, I'm done with rock and roll. And I'm talking people that have been in it 15, 20 years. And, but again, somebody said it, and I'm doing this for the love of the game. I really am. You know, I've sat on the phone and cried with people in the last 3-4 weeks because the number of people that are there, and I'm sure some people on this call are there. I'm sure some are, but you hate to say that because you think there's some kind of a workout, and that's why I'm hoping and praying that, and I believe we will get this extra funding. But even with that, it's going to be a tough crawl between now and January.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a very valid point. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, Andrew, but I'll say if those things start selling like hotcakes, The last thing I want to do is go back to banging strobe lights.
Yeah. I'll start selling a lot of gear off if those things start selling.
Exactly. No, it is going to pull a lot of the critical talent out of the industry, and that'll be a really sad thing to say if we can't retain them. And people shouldn't be forced to leave something that they absolutely love doing just because of the situation.
And that's also my goal in these things, is to pull a lot of the guys that I know are out of work, a lot of the electricians and touring crews, bring them in and have them help build these things.
That was the whole impetus for this.
Yeah.
Was, you know, the desperate attempt that we set out, you know, damn near 20 weeks ago at this point, to just try and create jobs for our friends, because we knew we may personally be all right to hold out for a while, but we know that they're not, and trying to make anything that generates an income for them is massive.
You know, I mean, it's funny though, because I'm trying to hire a couple people right now, and I think that puts me in sort of rare ground. But I'm trying to hire a couple of people, and I'm really desperately trying to hire from within our industry. And, you know, they're not jobs that need to be within our industry. One's a marketing position. But so I put out an offer to someone recently, and the argument became around vacation time. Not argument, but the debate became around vacation time. And this individual wanted 5 weeks of vacation. And I said, you know, do you realize what we're going through right now? Like, if this is going to be the battleground that you want to stick your flag in, is 5 weeks of vacation time. You know, I'm not taking any vacation time right now, because I'm like, all my chips are in on keeping a business alive. So no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you 5 weeks of vacation time. You know, well, then I need a company car and I need another $10,000 or whatever, you know. So, I mean, I think we all have to be willing to roll up our sleeves and do the things we need to do. Look at what Michael Strickland's doing right now. Like, you're not running a lighting company, you're running a government lobbying firm basically for free. And we got to do what we got to do. And, you know, some of the things I'm doing and some of the hours I'm working are not what I expected to be doing this year. I promise you that, for the money that I'm doing it for too. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have really lost some focus in that regard. That, you know, when you talk about the cliche, we're all in this together, you know, this all sucks together, and
yeah,
you just gotta roll your sleeves up, and it's the time. Because, all right, if you don't, you go. Good luck finding something else. If someone's going to employ you right now, kissing their ass.
No, but where we were at a year ago isn't where we're at today, and by no means am I saying to take advantage of people, because that is absolutely off the table as far as I'm concerned. But at the same time, my expectations have adjusted.
Yeah, but I think people's expectations of what they should be making are, you know, when we were all doing great, you know, people were getting paid a lot more money. And I've heard the grumblings too from people, like, you know, they want a day rate at this. I'm not doing that. That's crazy. And I'm like,
yeah.
What do you mean it's crazy? Go work. Like, this is.
Yeah. Do you want to work or not? You know. Meanwhile, I just had a thing pop up on my phone that says Jeff Bezos' net worth just hit 171.6 billion. So Amazon's doing okay, apparently. Yeah.
Very
well, we've been
contributing to that. Guilty.
Yeah.
We've all been buying all the Chinese shit from them.
Yeah, who here isn't guilty of getting an Amazon delivery or 100 in the last 3 months?
I just bought a microphone.
Oh,
we sat here.
There you go.
Sorry.
That's probably a pretty good idea, Eric.
Yeah, it seems that way. I don't know what's fucked up with this computer, but.
Yeah. Well, it just all of a sudden got really loud and really distorted.
Yeah, no, I know. It happens in my D&D game too, so it's not just you.
Yeah.
It's just Herrick. Just Herrick.
Totally Herrick. Yeah. Or it could be the wife upstairs on her own Zoom call. Where the bandwidth in my house is being stretched. I promise you.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So
I don't know if
I got a
shared this
question.
with you all last time, but going back to who's doing well, a good friend of mine owns Pet Safe Invisible Fence. He invented the invisible fence, and they do about $600 million a year globally selling that stuff. Well, right now they're doing close to $900 million a year. I mean, they sell dog beds and they sell animal things. So, you know, he's up 30% because of people at home adopting pets and buying pets. So there are bright spots.
Yeah.
But this isn't one of them.
Well,
We
Michael, your friend
beds.
Bill is going to get a bigger boat if he can figure out that vaccine.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no shit.
In fact, Eric, you've seen Bill's boat. It's that giant boat down by the stadium. I mean, I showed it to you. Did I take you on it?
Yeah, we went on it, remember?
Yeah, okay. You've met Bill. Yeah. You know him.
Andrew, we need to make veterinary trailers now.
That's a good idea.
I have a little bit of a bright spot.
Oh.
I was consulted on an article that was published today in the New York Times, and it's not much, but my record pick did make the cut. Let me give you guys a link.
Congratulations.
Did you get paid for it?
Oh no, but the author is a pretty notorious author, Tim Lawrence. I've contributed into a couple of his books, and he contacted me. He was putting together this list for the New York Times. And so my suggestion of Walk the Night made the cut.
Amazing.
No money, but you know, something. It was an up for the day.
Nice.
Congrats.
Very cool. All right, folks. Well, I mean, it's been amazing. Again, Michael Strickland, thank you so much for the incredible information you've shared with us. And, you know, I mean, anytime you want to pop in on this, obviously we sit here with bated breath waiting for you to feed us information. So you're a rock star and we appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you. And I hope to get that letter out tomorrow, the cut and paste thing to go to the politicians. And to Greg's point, this is a good time. So, And other than this little letter, don't ever hesitate to just tickle them. You know, just tickle them. Just send them another email going, don't forget about us. You know, think of something in your own words, and just continue to tickle them because it works.
Well, and also anyone who's on the call who's not getting Michael's emails that come out a couple times a week. Sometimes today there were 3. It was a great day. But it's mstrickland@banditlites.com, and just shoot him an email and say, please add me to your list, and he will.
I'll glue you in.
Yeah. And I can assure you this isn't spam. This is very, very vital and timely information every time we get it. So thank you again, Michael. And thank you everyone for joining us this week.
Bye.
And everybody be well and find productive things to do. And I'll see you next week.
Happy 4th of July, Americans.
Bye, everybody. Happy 4th of July.
Hey, happy Canada Day, too.
Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day.
4th of July.
All right, everyone. See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.